Hey family, friends, and everyone visiting the channel. It's Michael. It is the calm before the storm, August 19th, 2023, a day before Hurricane Hilary. Yes, hurricane in the Pacific, highly unusual, has never made landfall in California in recorded history. It will probably land as a tropical storm, and we're expecting tons of rain for California and some high winds. So in this video, I thought I would share all the things that you can do to protect your orchard and your fruit trees from a wind event, from things like tropical storms, hurricanes, high wind events. There's some things that you can do to make sure that your orchard is safe and sound and set and protected as much as possible. So Sahara and I will kind of cover that in today's episode. So let's jump into it now. Step one, Sahara and I want to share with you, is to pull your pots, your potted plants onto your patio. Pull them up next to the house, get them underneath some shelter, create some barriers for the wind so it doesn't impact and blow over your pots. The most damaging aspect of a storm is going to be the wind to your trees, in my opinion. So that is step one. Get all the pots that you can move. Now I've got some pots that are kind of big, that blew one over to the right with the mango. But everything else that you think needs protection that's sitting out in the open, make sure you pull that underneath. Some protection, pull it up next to your house, and protect your potted fruit trees and plants. Second thing is to kind of recognize your natural windbreak areas, like this retaining wall is going to break up a lot of wind. That's why I have this mango tree here. This thing is so heavy, it's very difficult for one person to move. It's probably going to stay here, and it's going to have to weather the storm and hang in there and survive it. But what it does have going for it is it does have a little bit of protection from the retaining wall, about 5 feet to the left where those bamboos are and the palm trees. Not as much protection. That's an open wrought iron fence, and that's going to have a lot more wind pushing through that area and create a lot more damage for any of the plants in that area. So another quick tip is recognize your other natural barriers besides your patio and use that to help your potted plants get through the wind event. All right, so these pots right here, I'm gonna leave them right here, and I'll tell you why. Give you a few reasons. One, these pots are heavy. I can move them, but they're pretty heavy. And they're also protected by this tropical bed area. Look at all these trees and this natural barrier and a little bit of a slope, and the brickwork and how it's tucked up in a nice little nook. So with all those things going for it, I think these will be fine, just fine right here. I think they'll ride out the storm and be okay. But that's why we document this stuff, because we'll find out. We'll see the results of what happens post-storm. But again, I just want to point out, your ability at your property to use various kind of barriers and nooks and crannies to make sure your pots survive the storm. So this is important. People forget, we're busy, we're doing a bunch of stuff, but make sure you pull your ripe fruit. You go through the whole year getting the trees ready, and if you don't get out here and pull these blackberries and nectarines and peaches, you stand a good chance of losing your harvest. We have quite a few nectarines still left on the tree. Let's see if I can look at that. Quite a few. One just literally fell off on cue. So if you can imagine that if the wind is really blowing, the wind is kind of calm right now, but if the wind were really blowing, a lot of these pieces of fruit would fly off. They're gonna hit the ground, they're gonna be damaged. Insects will get to them, and you're not gonna be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So don't forget about that. Pick the fruit harvest your ripe fruit, get them off the tree, and make sure that you're eating as much as your harvest as you can. Okay, there's 3 reasons why the way I designed and built out my orchard, 3 reasons why I am well set up, well protected, storm proof to a certain extent. Hopefully those are not my famous last words, calling my orchard storm proof. But here are the 3 reasons. 1, a lot of the varieties like this row of citrus here, are dwarf and semi-dwarf. What that means is it has a very low profile. They don't get very big. They get to about 6-8 inches. And your smaller trees with the lower profile are not as susceptible to the wind. It's the big tall trees that have a lot of leaves and branches up top that catch that wind resistance blowing that tree around is much more likely. That's number 1. Number 2, and along the similar theory, a lot of my trees, even the ones that aren't semi-dwarf, I prune them to branch very low because I want the fruit low. So it's going to have a low center of gravity due to pruning. And that's also going to help it make it through a wind event, make it through a storm. Then the 3rd reason is a lot of my trees that I put into the ground, I put into wells. So they are about 6 to 12 inches below the surface. And so that extra foot gives it more stability, lower center of gravity, and again, helps it survive kind of wind events. If you have your trees mounded up, which a lot of people do, because they don't want the trees sitting in water and think that trees can't survive if their feet stay wet, which we'll get into that in a different video. But it's going to be much more susceptible to wind. You're going to put that tree 2 feet high above the ground. It's going to, just have more of a chance to be blown over, not be stable, catch the wind, and so forth. The bananas probably I have the most concern about, those bananas up there. And I've got 3 racks of bananas happening right now, so we don't want anything to happen with those bananas. But they've survived high wind events before. They're tucked in between the pomegranates and the citrus, a little bit of a retaining wall blocking it, clumped together pretty tightly. I think they'll be okay. We'll keep an eye on that. And then the pomegranates, look how they're very bushy, and so they'll be just fine. The fruit on there should hold out, right? So we should be good. Okay, this loquat tree has a little bit of a high profile. I'm not going to stake it up. I'll show you another tree that I will in just a second. But it's on a sloped hill. It's down below the top of it. See that up there? See how it slopes down? And then it slopes again upwards, going that direction. So I think this tree would be okay, although if I do have a little extra time with the other stuff that I'm doing to prepare, I might come back out and just put some stakes and support to make sure that it gets through. But it's, we should be okay. So we'll check that out. Another example, these are the apple trees. Now, a lot of my trees don't have support. I usually only put support if the tree is leaning or if it's looking weak and just too wobbly. Otherwise, what I've read is that, if a tree can stand on its own, it's better for it because some of that swaying by the wind is actually good for the root development and for the tree to stabilize and establish itself. However, when we have a high wind event like the one coming from Hilary, I think it's a good idea. I think we need to stake these, and that's what we're going to do because we want to make sure this tree gets through the storm healthy and that fruit makes it to fruition. Okay, I wanted to give you guys a good example of what good support looks like. It looks like 2 pieces of bamboo or, some sort of pole or stake, and pulled from each side, not super tight. You don't want to have it dig into the bark, but just a little bit of tension on each side so that it's stabilized. And that's what you want. This is the Jamaican cherry tree. And a good example of what the supports should look like, just to give you guys an idea. It's pretty simple. Stick the stakes in the ground, put some support on it. I may add another support a little higher up, but I think that's sufficient. Got the base nice and secure, and that should make it through just fine. All right, it's now about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Sunday, August 20th. We had steady rain overnight, a little bit of break in the morning. The storm is probably somewhere right around San Diego at this point, moving up towards this area. Not too bad so far. I would guess we've had about 1 inch of rain. I have moved some of the plants out to get a nice fresh drink of water. They're getting thoroughly drenched with wonderful, luscious, clean rainwater. And I'll pull them underneath shortly, underneath the patio. And then, here's the mango tree, hibiscus, watermelon plant, and some other mangoes up on the storage bin over there. So that is the situation. The true test is going to be right around, need to get that floaty out of the pool. the true test will be right around 5 to 7 o'clock this evening, when the storm is supposed to land over the Riverside area. All right, so we'll check back shortly, see what we got. Not much wind so far, but we'll see what happens in a minute. All right, it's a little bit after 4:30, 8:20, Sunday 8:20. We're starting to see more effects, feel more effects. Look at the mango tree. One thing you'll notice though, even though the rain has picked up dramatically, there's not a lot of wind as of yet. Look at the palm trees, look at the trees in the background. Fairly still, not much movement, but the rain is heavy. It's kind of like a heavy storm that we, periodically get in December and January. The storm hasn't quite moved over us yet, but it is getting close. And I think now is about the time I'm gonna pull the plants back underneath the patio. They've gotten plenty of water, they're drenched, they're soaked, they're happy. And now we just gotta watch out for the winds, make sure the winds aren't too significant. All right, that's the latest. All right, aftermath of Hilary, August 21st, Monday. And if you'll notice, the skies look beautiful. It's about 80 degrees. Beautiful clear skies, the sun is out, clean air. It was really great. We were blessed not to have very much any impact from Hilary. I will say our concerns go out to folks that did. There's a lot of folks in Palm Springs and San Bernardino Mountains and Ventura County and other places that dealt with a lot of mudslides and flooding and other issues. Haven't heard of a lot of impact to things like loss of life, which is really great. So we hope that holds. But here on the property, we've been very blessed. About 2 inches of rain. And as you see Sahara up there, she's roaming around the property, checking things out. But about 2 inches of rain. I will say if we had 3 to 4 inches, probably would have had some flooding problems. But fortunately, we didn't get that. And then she does her business. We'll give her a little bit of privacy. And then we also did not have very much wind at all. Very little wind, which is really nice. That helped make sure that we didn't have much damage on the property. So just to wrap up, the things we talked about in the video are things like, protecting your potted plants, putting them on the patio, using windbreakers, retaining walls and such, side of the house as areas of protection. Those are great. And then proofing your orchard, storm proofing it, dwarf trees, keeping the trees cut low branching, those kind of things. For me, I have hillside, so I have a lot of my trees in wells, which helps against the wind damage and wind pressure. And so hope you guys got a lot out of this video. It was interesting kind of documenting the lead up to Hilary and documenting what was happening in Hilary on Sunday when it, kind of went over this area. And then where we're looking at now, which is beautiful, beautiful Southern California, gorgeous skies, a wonderful day. So anyways, thanks for following, and we'll catch you on the next video.